and welcome to Hard Copy from our channel's television studios in Abuja. I'm Kayla Megwa. Tonight, we turn our focus to governance and insecurity as attacks by bandits and terrorists around the country worsen. Yes, the military is working. In just the past week, 23 kidnapped victims in Kogi were rescued. 2 ISWAP members arrested in Adamawa. Operation Will Stroke neutralized 4 criminals in Taraba State, rescued 2 kidnapped victims and dismantled an illegal drug network. Operation Hadin Kai in Lake Chad region arrested a suspected terrorist collaborator. In Benue and Taraba, Operation Whirlpool killed 4 suspected kidnappers and rescued 2 victims. 181 Amphibious Battalion arrested 3 illegal bunkerers in Delta State. Operation Delta Sentinel dismantled 4 illicit refining sites and confiscated 77,000 liters of stolen crude. Operation Hadin Kai in the Kirta and Arena Chiki areas in the Lake Chad region led to the death of over 50 terrorists and a destroyed supply chain. 2 logistics suppliers and terrorist informants in Maiduguri were arrested by our troops. And those are just the ones I know of in the past 1 week. In our courts, 4 suspects of the Owo killings have been sentenced to death. So like I said, efforts are underway to combat this insecurity. However, the threat remains and seems to be growing. The Oyo School abduction is still very fresh in our minds. And we just heard that the former Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu's sisters and her children were kidnapped as well, in addition to renewed attacks in the plateau, in Zamfara State. In Ekiti, protests have also erupted as a result of kidnappings. Meanwhile, abductors keep brazenly showing off ransom money they've collected on TikTok. It's maddening, and our president, we do not feel safe, sir. I guess tonight once said, crime in Nigeria thrives because of an absence of consequences. Looking at our situation, does the president deserve our mandate again? Is he doing his best? Is this a political campaign to get him out of office? Does President Tinubu live in a bubble where he's been lied to every day by people who believe access to him is their destiny? People who lie to him to keep him smiling so their bank accounts can keep getting bigger. Meanwhile, the Nigerian people are dying. Is this the Buhari model again? How to ensure there is consequence and sanity in our polity will be our focus tonight with Dr. Charles Omole, the Director General of the Institute for Peace and Security Policy Research. Dr. Omole, thank you so much again for being with us on Hard Copy.
Thanks for having me again.
Security in Nigeria has it gotten worse in your view? Because it does feel like many Nigerians think it's gotten worse.
It's difficult to, perception and reality is always different. I guess people who speak for the government, if they are using raw statistics, may tell you things are not as bad as Buhari era. But if you ask an average Nigerian, their perception probably will be different. I think the way I see it is that when the president came in, he noticed that, okay, our tax system wasn't working. So he just decided to revamp the whole thing. Now, it wasn't that we were not collecting taxes before he came. He just felt we were not efficient with it and not enough people were paying taxes. Same thing with subsidy, same thing with the disbursement from NMPC. So it is, the way I look at it is, you bought a new house that was built in 1960. You find that the kitchen, you replace the kitchen because it's outdated. You replace the sitting room. You replace the bathroom. All those also are outdated. But you left the asbestos on the roof and the leaking roof, you left it. So what I'm saying is, if what is good for the goose is good for the gander, if indeed the kitchen is old and needed changing, then the roof also is old, needs changing rather. So the same thing here, I feel the government is not approaching security the way they've approached, say tax, for example.
What kind of approach should he give to security?
I'm saying, the president needs to say, okay, let's think the unthinkable. Just like I approach tax, let's look at security. Declare a state of emergency, bring a technical team together, You know, so it's not just about policing, which we're talking about state police, that is an argument we can have, you know, but it's also military, so that the what we have at the hand will be a completely new security setup in Nigeria.
So when Christopher Musa was made Chief of Defense Staff, we were all very excited in this country. We said, yes, he's going to bring that same verve into, if he brings that as Minister of Defense, where he has more power and can coordinate a little bit more, maybe we'll see more. Are you saying that it's this architecture that hasn't been changed that may have, is it possible that it may have stifled his ability to act the way the Nigerian people would have wanted him to as Minister of Defense?
Well, I mean, in terms of the Minister of Defense strengthens him in some area, but also weakens him in some other area.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because, for example, as Minister of Defense, you don't have operational command or control. All you set is policy. You know, it's a CDS that now, you know, does the operational management, especially if it involves multiple services. Now, the issue really is that, I think one of the challenges we have in Nigeria is what we understand by the word security. I think that is a fundamental, when I say we need to rethink security, that's what I mean. Security in Nigeria simply means guns and, you know, armed services. Whereas security should be the job of every ministry, every MDA. But that concept has not been, you know, sort of established in Nigeria. No, you know, you go to Ministry of Health, they don't see security as part of their job, for example. Whereas what everybody does have impact on security. I mean, for example, one of the key things is the government, you are fighting and killing these people, these bad guys, but the areas where you've even liberated the people from the bad guys, the economy is devastated. Joblessness is rampant in those places. It's a matter of time before those people are recruited back into the terrorist group. So security is not just about guns, is what I'm saying. Is, you know, there's no point you know, winning the war on this side and then your own policies unwittingly create more recruiting sergeant, so to speak, act as a recruiting sergeant.
Is that what the Tinubu administration has done? Because, and we did take our time in the beginning of this program, because the military is, they are working every day.
That's correct.
There's always, I saw them use this drone to trace this particular insurgent supplier. He was an informant for insurgents, allegedly. And I watched that operation. They were using this drone and they were following him through the supply routes and they were able to catch him. And seeing our military do all of that, but then when that is happening, another set of abductions happens in Zamfara. Another one happens the ones in Ekiti even said they paid ransom. And the money, the bandits collected the money and said, no, we still want to talk to the authorities. The ones in Oyo are still, you know, while that is going on, we're also seeing from the justice side of things where people have been sentenced to death. So it feels like a lot of moving parts, but the part of it that affects the Nigerian people and the gains you've made is the threat to their lives.
Exactly.
How should the president be thinking about that particular area when it comes to the Nigerian people, especially with this outcry right now?
You know, just I remember in those days of law school, one of the professors used to say that the hallmark of a good lawyer is not your ability to win cases in court. So the hallmark of a good lawyer is your ability to resolve the dispute without going to court. So in other words, this is the win is not about we are capturing the terrorist. You know, we are liberating people they kidnap. The win is we prevented the kidnap in the first place. And that's a challenge because we are constantly chasing our tail here. As we are rescuing these people, this set of people, two, three other places, they've kidnapped more people, you know, and then we're just going around in circles like that. So what I think, you know, and I think, by the way, before I go on, I think part of it is historical. During the Buhari era, a lot of kidnapping, I probably said 95% of them, were resolved through negotiation. Yes. So what happened, therefore, was I have a feeling that the people who are sort of doing this kidnapping are either the same people or they work very closely with one another. So what that means is for every time you negotiate, you pay ransom, you're equipping them for their next operation.
You're creating an economy.
Exactly. We've created an economy. You know, so the money, they're now used to that money. So what's happening is you are not, rescuing the people and neutralizing the guys, the kidnappers, or arresting and prosecuting them. Because once you do that, you've taken those bunch out of circulation.
3 years ago. And Tinubu's administration, so Buhari was there 8 years. This was going to say 8 years. So 11 years, people have been moving. And it's not just the same kidnappers. It could be this group, and then another group says, look, this guy's made so and so. Or maybe they're watching those TikTok videos I alluded to earlier, where those boys are carrying bundles of cash and taunting the Nigerian people on social media. You see, the response and the feelings of citizens at the beginning of an insurgency will not be the same 11 years after or 10 years after. I think people are now just simply tired. They don't believe in government assurances because, all we hear is condolence messages, or some very good speech after new kidnapping. I can't remember whether it was February when I had an interview. I don't know whether it's here or another TV station, when the Kaduna kidnap, after the Kaduna kidnapping happened. And I told her, I said, and somebody asked me, will we see more? I said, yes. And we'll see more frequently until after the election. So I'm saying it again now, there will be more kidnapping unless certain things are done. And the key thing for me here is, in policing, they said if somebody is abducted, say a child is abducted, the first few hours matters. The longer the time the abduction continues, the less likely the person abducted will be alive. So that makes the issue of rapid response very important. Because you have a situation where, like I say, people will come to a village, kidnap people. Before they get back to the bush, could be a 2-hour motorbike ride. They are not stopped. Nobody intervenes. And then once they are entrenched into the bush, then we now start chasing them. Part of the challenge, I think, is the absence of what I call a rapid response team within the security service. If more money is going to states right now, and Lagos State was able to create some rapid response squad that this particular Inspector General of Police used to head, shouldn't we be questioning the states right now as to why they don't have rapid response squads that can replicate, because the testimonies of the Lagos one was fantastic, that can replicate that. And then we do not have a situation where in a place like Agoro, they will come and kidnap 200, 300 people for 2-3 hours, an operation is going on, and then no one responded. That's what I'm saying, that number one, you can't force states to do that, but clearly state policing will force them to spend money. But even forget kidnapping. Even you as a teacher, go to a school and want to control 50 children. Control 50 children. It's a nightmare, So it's not an easy task to have to have control that many young people in the bush. They have to feed them. You have to give them water, and they will cry. Exactly. So they'll be tired. They've been walking. It's not injured. It's not It's not an easy thing. So there are several intervention points that we can have, but the issue here is. I don't want to discuss tactics in public, but there are ways. The longer these people hold the captives, the more difficult extraction will be, because the more embedded they will be wherever it is they are operating. That first 24 hours is absolutely key. And the issue is, what I mean is rapid response. I know the former IG set up what they call the Special Intervention Squad. That was the idea, but that was never funded by the government. And like I say, it's not a matter of trying to make the government look bad, because every department of every ministry have said the same thing. For example, last year, 2025, between January and December, police did not get 1 naira in capital expenditure. All they got was just money for their salaries. So how do you therefore equip and kit these people in that environment? The military are complaining of the same thing, even though they still get some things. You heard the Minister of Health said throughout last year, all he got was 36 million naira, of the capital vote throughout last year. So there is an issue of funding generally in the economy, but that's affecting security. So there's a need for some form of, because a rapid response team means the job of these people is responding
to situation and training. So they don't do what I call normal day-to-day policing work. Because what's happening at the moment is you have to recall people from different tasks they are doing, get about 100 of them before you now say, let's go after this guy. But by the time you mop up those people, time has gone. If you remember in 2021, there was a National Security Summit that was conducted by the National Assembly, of which over 100 recommendations were made.
I want you to stay on that point because we're coming back to it. And I remember you were very seriously involved in that particular process. I think we've had that conversation before where nothing was done about
Exactly.
it.
That's my point.
But we'll get back to that. And if our security agencies need to be audited, we'll talk about that when we come back from this break. So please stay with us on Hard Copy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hard Copy. If you've just joined us, Dr. Charles Omole joins us tonight, and we're talking security. And we said we're going to go into governance in a bit, but thank you very much for being with us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Should our security agencies be audited? There's more money. At least that's what it sounds like. There's more money everywhere. More money has been given to everybody. What have they used it for? And when it comes to subnationals, more money has gone there. Should there be some kind of audit? What do we do? There's more money, but the security is worse and the economy is worse. What's going on?
Well, I mean, one thing you have to give to the Tinubu administration is more money has been made available to states. But there's currently no way of making states accountable because the actual legal structure to make states accountable are the State House of Assemblies. And we know those ones are just, rubber stamps, But in terms of audit, I think is audit needed? My answer would be yes, but the military will not like it. The reason why I said...
I was about to say, who cares what they like? We're in their strengths.
Like I said before in my book on Buhari, one of the things that happened under Buhari administration is the fact that there was an attempt to start military procurement government to government. But the leadership of the military and the cabal were against it. And I gave an example, which was explained by the then NSA, General Munguno, where, there was a deal agreed with Dubai, UAE government, and there's a particular item that they were going to sell to us government to government for $2.50. When he went into the books to check how much we bought that same item, the usual contractual way, it was almost $28. So what that tells me is, yes, there is shortage of money, but the money we even have is not going far enough. So we end up buying 1,000 guns, for argument's sake, whereas the money could have bought 5,000, so to speak. And
somebody is eating the balance.
Oh, no, that's been the case in Nigeria since. I mean, it's procurement that is a major issue.
But now we can't afford to allow that to continue. Between $2.50 and $28, you know how much that is? And imagine you're buying in bulk. Yeah. Who's the person doing this? Who's supposed to create the oversight? Who's supposed to check? We just have no consequence, like you said. There's no consequence for bad behavior in this country.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, clearly, if the president wants to do it, he can.
He can.
But
Does he not want to? Are his hands tied? What's going on?
I wouldn't want to speak for the president, but from my own understanding, some people are currently being tried for attempted coup last year, as you know. So that probably is all I need to say. That if you try too hard, there might be some consequence. So it could, like one of the generals told me once, we need to keep the boys happy.
At some point, we have to start looking at our country and drop this drama. I know that there are so many powers that be. I know that there are so many cabals. But right now, our people are dying. Is it until it gets to a point where you can't help it? The Nigerian people are being aggravated. They are very vocal. They're not being, and I get it. Some people tell the president, oh, it could be your political enemies. But like we said, and I think what myself and Laolo Akonida were saying this, well, like, even if it is your political enemies that are doing this to demarket you, Isn't this an opportunity for you to catch your political enemies in the act and disgrace them and show them for who they are to the Nigerian people? What is this excuse about?
Well, you see, the best way I can explain it in a layman's illustration I can give to help this is, if somebody is sick and they have stage 1 cancer, all medical best practice that they will give that person approved conventional medication to treat that particular cancer. But assuming the person is now terminal and they're giving the person, say, 3 months to live, at that point, doctors are allowed to use even experimental treatment.
Yes.
Whatever can be tried, because like, what does he have to lose? Now, my challenge in terms of our security, bringing back to that, is we are in that terminal stage. We've been given 2-3 months to live, but our doctors are still using the approved conventional medication. And therefore, we are not responding to the situation to reflect the existential threat that this poses, which means we have to bring some new tools out of the rule book in terms of how we fight this thing, in terms of how we engage them. So it's very important, and that's what I mean by this revamp that the president needs to do. This is not time to look at, okay, was it, desperate time? They said desperate measures are needed. And I'm not seeing that element of desperate measure being taken.
That brings me to my next question, which is, does he know that these are desperate times? There are feelers out there that he's been lied to constantly by people who want him to keep smiling and making jokes and having a great time.
Every president is always lied to. That's not new. Buhari was lied to. Jonathan was lied to. It's not, even Obasanjo, as streetwise as he was lied to in some areas. It is the job of the president to make sure he feels the pulse of the street. Does
this president know the pulse of our streets? He says, I understand. I don't know if just saying I understand means he understands the pulse of the street.
I mean, I can only be guessing here because I'm not in the inner circle. But I think I know the president is highly protected. When I mean protected, I'm not talking of security.
Yeah,
I'm talking in terms of the access.
The access to him is highly protected.
There are ministers who are claimed they've not been able to see him for months, and all that. So how well he is acquainted with everything happening in every area, I don't know. But I think we've gone past the stage of just bringing our press releases, and
condoling with the families.
Condoling with family. We've gone past that stage.
Mobilizing the security chiefs to move to the area.
We now need a more proactive measure. We need to begin to see, the military or the security services intercepted this terrorist group on their way to doing X, Y, Z. Or they intercepted this, kidnapping group on their way to... That's the news we need to begin to hear.
How intelligence is working.
Exactly.
To prevent crime
Not
in
that
the first place.
Things will have happened and then we are now saying we are trying to rescue. Because even if you succeed in rescuing this one, in 2-3 weeks, there will be another one.
What is the word? Rescued, ransomed, or released? Because we're listening to that community in Ekiti State. When I was listening to them, it was mind-boggling. They said the community came together and they gave ransom, and the brazen kidnappers said, no, we collect, yes, thank you for the ransom, but we still need to speak to the authorities. And it got me wondering about how much control of the Nigerian government we have on that community, because taking over a community doesn't necessarily mean that armed robbers or terrorists have come and they are now mounting guns as we see in movies. No, it could be that the functionality of that community depends on non-state actors.
Actually, you've nailed it. I mean, for example, these stay-at-home Mondays that happened for I don't know whether it still happens in the Southeast.
Well, the governor said it doesn't.
For a long time. The reason why that held was that I spoke to people who said, if we decide to disobey these groups that say we should stay away and we'll go, nobody will protect us. So the fear or the understanding that they may not get protection from government was one of the reasons why it was very effective. If they are certain that if we go, if anything happens or if anything about to happen, government will, they will disobey, many people will disobey that instruction. But a lot of people know or feel that if they go to and open their market, they won't. The police will be nowhere to be found to give them protection. So they would rather stay in their house and be safe than risk going to open their shop. So that tells me that the power of the state, by state I mean government, to have this monopoly of violence, legitimate use of force, has been dissipated in Nigeria. Like I said before, the former IGP Alkali said in a speech that at that time that we had 86 on police record. We had 86 armed non-state groups in Nigeria. I'm sure there are probably over 100 now. But so we are not short of groups that are carrying guns everywhere. So what that means, therefore, is we need to accelerate this concept of state policing. Brother just talk. We need to, and the first thing I believe needs to happen is that constitutional amendment needs to be passed.
Can I ask something? In Nigeria, we have a bit of a habit of creating new things. Of course, a lot of us are support state police. We get that. We saw that there's a new, it's something Homeland Security. Homeland
Security. Well, that's not really a department, but I know that this guy was appointed as SA Homeland Security.
Yes, so we saw that coming up. Then now, so let us do state police. Some may ask, why don't we just hold the people in office accountable as is? Pastor Deboye said it. Start to look at these security heads and say, if you do not deliver on so and so and so, or if this and this happens, then you lose your job, or you get investigated. Why doesn't he want to do that?
I support that. I support that. In fact, I've made recommendations that if you appoint anybody into the security portfolio, the day they are appointed, let them also sign a resignation letter. You will just date it if they're not performing. See, and lastly, I will advise the government to appoint a spokesperson on national security.
A spokesperson on national security?
Because the level of nuance and detail needed to reassure Nigerians are not being provided by the generalists spokespeople he has. They're trying their best, but they're not subject matter experts. Okay. So you need to be somebody who can actually break the thing down in a detail that reassure the people. But the general vibe you get when you get the general briefing from the spokespeople, it's not detailed enough to at least someone to give you assurance that he's on top of it, even though the president is trying his best.
Well, we are totally out of time. I have to thank you so much, Dr. Charles Omole, for being with us on Hard Copy. And good luck.
Thank you.
With all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That's Hard Copy this week. I'm Kayla Megwa. Good night.